Hello and welcome to this Libsense Open Access Week panel, we'll address this year's Open Access Week theme. It matters how we open knowledge, building structural equity, and I'm privileged to have such a distinguished panel of speakers today, and I'll be introducing them one after each other when it will be their turn to speak, but we'll hear lots of national and institutional perspectives on open access and open science from different African and not only African countries. I would like to start with short introduction to Lipsense, as you could probably see, I'm not Umoaya, but he's here. Unfortunately, his network connection isn't ideal, and he's in Togo now, so I'll be his voice. And Lipsense is a Pan-African initiative, collaboration between libraries and research and education networks around open science at institutional, national, and regional level. And we're working together to build communities of practice, strengthen local, institutional, national open access, open science services. And we have working groups addressing policy issues, governance and leadership in open science. We have an infrastructure working group looking at open access journals, repositories of publications and data, and open discovery services. And we have a capacity building working group, building communities of practice in Africa around open science. We also have some language-specific groups, Arabic and French, but for the purpose of today's discussion, we'll stick to English. And on the African level, we are leveraging on UNESCO Open Science recommendation, and we hope they will be adopted in November and implemented in countries. We collaborate with Group Forum, which is Pan-African group of universities working in the area of agriculture. And then we're also addressing issues of access federation and identity management. On the regional level, we hope to build open research and open science skills among especially early career researchers, but eventually all players. And we're also working on other areas. On the national level, and that's probably what you'll hear a lot today, there are national open science initiatives, and our colleagues will share how they address policies, infrastructures, and capacity buildings in their countries. And then we have some interesting examples of regional collaborations on open science infrastructures and also national collaborations. And then on the institutional level, again, we're supporting institutional open access, open science policies and infrastructure and capacity building. And if you're not part of Libsense yet, and if you are from academic and research institution based in Africa, please get in touch with us via this email, and we'll be happy to welcome you in this initiative. If you're not a member of any of the working groups that I mentioned, policy, infrastructure, capacity building, and would like to get involved, please also get in touch with us. So thanks a lot. And now I have a great pleasure to introduce Raed Al-Zoubi from ASREN, Research and Education Network in Arab region, and Lautaro Matas from La Referencia, which is a network of open access repositories in Latin America, and they will share how they collaborate on the continental levels or regional levels. So over to you, Lautaro and Raed.
Thank you, Irina. I will be sharing my screen. It's just 2 slides. Let me go to presentation mode. You have my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Irina, for the introduction about the LIBSENSE initiative. And as mentioned by Irina, LIBSENSE initiative is in Africa. It's between educational and research networks and libraries. And ASREN is one of the partners, including other partners and sister organization. I will be briefly talking about the part of the ASREN efforts toward a fair, compliant commons comes through the LIBSENSE initiative itself, workshops, activities, task, working groups, tasks. A lot of efforts is made. I will be highlighting ASREN efforts in this particular. Another effort made by LIBSENSE, by ASREN actually, through the collaboration with DataCite and ORCID, the collaboration with the Referencia as well. I will be highlighting two of these efforts, collaboration with UNESCO for sure, as mentioned by Irina, and collaboration with UNESCO as ASREN recently became an observer member at the EOSC, which is European Open Science Cloud. ASREN contribution to LIBSENSE initiatives can come through the activities, the LIBSENSE third workshop conducted in 2019. And actually, the priorities surfaced in this workshop was about the need of federated discovery system for the region, the ASREN region, for increasing the value of Arabic content and for shared content hosting platforms as well. Advocacy training and communities of practice as well. There was another virtual workshop in October 2020, a third workshop including while yearly conference of ASREN. Also, there is effort promoting open access trends and the practices through mailing lists, through policies. I will focus about my colleague Lautaro will talk more deeply about the Referencia project. There were actually several technical meetings, discussions between the LIBSENSE partners, ASREN, WACREN, and OpenToNet with the Referencia team. And the result was to have an MOU signed between the Referencia and the 3 partners of the LIBSENSE initiative. The aim of the collaboration was defined to be to advance open science policies, services, infrastructure for the unique needs, and within a framework of international cooperations. Actually, more international rather than being regional cooperation. ASREN had a 4-month pilot project where we were, the technical team of ASREN were evaluating the infrastructure setup, the harvester and aggregator setup of the La Referencia. And the evaluation was positive, and currently we started discussions with the La Referencia about the technical and financial aspects of adopting the La Referencia setup in the region, and in the La Referencia efforts in internationalization as well, since they have already started to do internationalization of their setup. This is actually in a brief. I hope I didn't take more time than allocated, I will stop sharing and give the floor to my colleague Lautaro to talk more deeply about the reference system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raed. Thank you very much to the Lipsense team and all the organizers in inviting you, invited us to this conference, to this discussion. It's an honor for us to be part of this. Please let me share my screen. Just one moment. I will talk very briefly about La Referencia in case just for give some information about our initiative. As Irina said, we are the Latin American Open Access Science Network of repositories. We are a result of an agreement of cooperation between countries, between the governments of countries. It was founded in 2012 by the agreement of countries, but the original project was funded for the EDB, for the International Development Bank. It was a project of 3 years, and as a result of that project, we advanced in the construction of this regional network based on national nodes. So our mission is to give publicity, visibility to the public funded research results. We work with mainly with the literature, but we are working also with research data now, and with all the result of the research activities. In our regional list, most of the research is funded by government, by public funds. So it's very important for us to work in putting that content fully available for all the community. That's because we are working from the very beginning in a software, in infrastructure to make this happen. So we are now more than 12 countries or initiatives. We are these are all the countries of La Referencia, are all Latin American countries from South America and Central America, and we have an external Latin American country that is Spain. You know that because the language of the culture and the high scientific collaboration in Spain is a natural partner of the Latin American science. So it's part of La Referencia also, and we collect metadata of all the repositories of the region. But it is done by collecting national nodes. What that means, each country has a national aggregator that collects the metadata from the repositories, and each country has a portal to publish that information for their communities. At the same time, we do harvest all the countries into a single aggregation, a regional aggregation, that is La Referencia portal. At the same time, Open Air and other global initiatives of European, such as European Open Air and other global initiatives collects La Referencia. So we give visibility at global level to the research deposited in institutional repositories of all the region. Also, Red Clara, that is an area of Latin America, is part of La Referencia because they ruled the initial project, and they still are part of our administrative and financial structure. So going more in depth with the MOU that we signed with ASREN, Walker, and UbuntuNet. This is a great opportunity for us. This is a South-South collaboration, and it's a great opportunity to share our experience. We are learning a lot of the colleagues of ASREN in this case, running the pilot. We, as Raed said, we ran the pilot from 4 months, and we collected, we tested the software and used the software to collect Arabic contents. That is something that we don't have in Latin America. It was a challenge, but the software is strong and good for that. We proved that, and we worked together in solving some issues. And now we think that is really a good option for ASREN and the other networks to use. So the MOU provides us a framework for this collaboration and for future collaboration and mutual learning of our region. We have very a large set of common issues, common problems that we need to solve as Latin America and as Africa. And we trust that this MOU is a good starting point to work together and share the efforts and share the results and be more open around the open science in our region. So the collaboration is important for me to say that collaboration was fostered by CORE, and I want to public thanks to Caitlin, because Caitlin and Irina from Lipsense was very important in all that this process. So I want to thank all the initiatives involved in this important MOU for us. So we are looking forward for going more in deep in the collaboration. As Raed said, we are going in the next step of transferring the software, the platform, to be used in ASREN, and we hope that it will be useful also for all the networks and colleagues in Africa. So thank you very much, and please ask me a question. I am available for all your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Lautaro and Raed. Colleagues, if you have any questions, please put them in a Q&A or write them in a chat. And now we're going from regional to national level, and we'll go alphabetically by country names, and we'll start with Côte d'Ivoire, and my colleague Cécile Coulibaly, who is EIFL country coordinator, and she works at the Virtual University of Côte d'Ivoire, and she also manages a National Library Consortium Cabesi. And over to you, Cécile, to talk about open access and open science in Côte d'Ivoire and your national plan.
Thank you. Yeah, forgive me my mistakes. I'm Francophone, I will try to speak in English. Let me share the slides.
If you want, I can share them for you, Cécile.
You can share it. Okay. Okay, thank you, Irina. Hello, I'm going to talk to open access development in Côte d'Ivoire. We will be speaking on some key points. Irina, the next slide, please. Hello. Okay. Why Open Access Week in Côte d'Ivoire? With whom, the activities, difficulties, and perspectives. And for our first point is based on observation. Before we started activities on open access, we were faced with difficulties to access to scientific literature in Côte d'Ivoire because of before and after the political crisis. We lost a lot of important collection and infrastructure because of this conflict. And we were also faced with the poverty of collection in libraries, faced with infrastructure problem and connectivity. And the project of the Bibliothèques Virtuelle de l'Enseignement Supérieur et de la Recherche Scientifique started in 2025, was launched in 2026 as a national repository project to pool, share, digitalize, and preserve the knowledge produced in academic and research institutions. It was also a space of collaboration, networking, and partnership to enhance scientific access to scientific international literature, linked with the national consortium and our partners, like EIFL OA, Research for Life, and others. The need to promote open access and open science push us to initiate for Open Access Week in Côte d'Ivoire. And we also have a need to launch the first edition was launched in 2018, yeah, and institutionalized by the Ministry of Higher Education. Next slide, please. Irina, next slide. Our initiative of open access was built towards the promotion of access to scientific literature, and with whom we are working since we started this initiative. We are working with the Consortium of librarians, higher education librarians. We are also working with academic and research institutions and their communities, students, researchers in Côte d'Ivoire. And we are also working with policy and decision makers in education and research area in Côte d'Ivoire, such as the ministry and the other partners. RITA is the REN in Côte d'Ivoire and UNESCO local commission. We are also working with partners such as IUF, ERD, editors, KEM, EIFL, MTN Foundation, and WACREN, UNESCO office in Côte d'Ivoire, GIS for Prefer Project, SCAR for more in UNESCO more Memory of Awards. Next slide, please. Our activities are based on these key points: capacity building, networking, partnership, and advocacy. Next, please. We try to convince our communities of on the interest to adopt open science and have access to access. We promote access for all to resources. And you can see on this slide that we try to explain the concept of open science to our communities. And we also show them the initiative we have towards the national repository. And we are going through to strengthen policies and initiative of collaboration at a national level and international level also. Thank you. Next slide, please. Irina. You can see here that we are working with, also working with WACREN, and we organize a Lipsense open access activities last year based on how to boost open science in Africa. And our collaboration is with also the more sign with the UNESCO subcommittee of education and research. Yeah, working with, we signed the more. And we are also working with ICDE, who is a partner with UNESCO for the for open education resources. Okay, we can go ahead. You can see one of our publication, and we are strengthening our collaboration with here you can see some activities with our partners, MTN Foundation, the ministry, the academic decision makers, academic and research decision makers, librarians, and researchers also. Our collaboration links to WACREN and so on activities we are making in Cote d'Ivoire. And we took the opportunity of the COVID-19 to also build a directory in of open access resources. It was we took the opportunity of the licenses offers by international editors to our consortia and our institution, and we built this directory in order to increase open access to all our communities to this temporary open access resources. And you can see that we increase some partnership. It is this activity which link us with UNESCO, UNESCO to sign the memorandum of the Center of Knowledge in Cote d'Ivoire. Next slide, please. We also organize several conferences, workshops to publishers. We organize one workshop on how we can help publishers to publish in open access journals. We are faced to several difficulties. No, the next, oh yes, I want to speak about, yeah, okay. Our difficulties, we have several difficulties, and we need support. Oh, sorry, I can't read. I want to read the first, can I have the
It's embedded animation in your slide, so I can't really control it because.
Okay. Okay, sorry for that.
I can try to get it back because it advances by itself.
I don't know how. I can read it on my computer, please. Okay.
So maybe I'll keep it in this way, so it's not.
Okay.
It doesn't advance.
Okay. I said that we need strong support and engagement of communities, decision makers, and we also need to strengthen infrastructure for infrastructure. We have need to strengthen the national repository to update, to have good standards and deploy it in all the academic and research institutions in Cote d'Ivoire. And we have also institutional and national open science policies needs. It is very important for us. We work in the UNESCO recommendation in May, and we need to be a reference in to get our own policy. Yeah, and you can see that some of these activities will be on our roadmap for open science in Cote d'Ivoire, which is based on infrastructure development, skills development, and we are running to policies, open science, national open science development, institutional policies also, and we want to have a national open science platform with some activities such as federation identities, persistent identities, and also organize national open science symposium and other activities to strengthen our collaboration and our partnership. Thank you very much. I
Thanks a lot,
finished.
Cécile, and apologies.
Sorry for my bad English.
No, your English is perfect. Don't say that. It was very clear. Thank you so much. If you have any questions to Cécile, please write them in a chat or in the Q&A. And moving on, our next speaker is Getnet Lemma, and he is from Addis Ababa University and Consortium of Ethiopian Academic and Research Libraries. And he will speak about open access in Ethiopia and in Addis Ababa University. And I have a privilege to be working with Getnet as open access country coordinator in Ethiopia. So over to you, Getnet. I think you have to unmute yourself. So looks like we're having some issues with the audio. So why don't we talk about Nigeria now? Or are you here, Getnet? Because I think you unmuted yourself, but unfortunately we still can't hear you. So maybe let's have Owens talk about developments in Nigeria, and then we'll go back to Getnet and we'll try to fix. Now we can see your slides, Getnet, but unfortunately we still can't hear you. So maybe you can try to leave this meeting and then join again and check your audio. Because unfortunately we can't hear you. Sorry about that. Then I have a great pleasure to introduce Owen Iyoha from Eko-Konnect, which is a research and education network in Nigeria, and he's done amazing National Open Science Symposium. I think the best one I've ever attended, and there are lots of other interesting developments around shared infrastructure. So over to you, Owen.
Okay, thank you very much, Irina, for that glowing introduction. I hope I meet up with that. First of all, can you see me? Because I noticed when Cécile was presenting, we could only basically see the top part of her head. So I just want to be sure you can all see me properly.
Yes, we can see you properly.
Right, that's fine. I'm very vain because I'm about to share the screen and actually show the presentation, but I do want to make sure I can be seen. Okay. Okay. As Irina has mentioned, my name is Owen Iyoha. I work for Eko-Konnect Research and Education Initiative, which is an ASREN operator in Nigeria. So part of my presentation is going to focus on some of our highlights that have really occurred during this year and some of our anticipated activities for early next year. But as a kind of a little bit of a background, first of all, I'd like to give a lot of kudos to Lipsense and the key drivers within the Lipsense movement. Eko-Konnect has been participating in Lipsense from inception, and the work that Lipsense have done in terms of advocacy basically also very much opened our eyes as an NREM provider in Nigeria to some of the issues and areas that we ourselves should be addressing as an NREM operator in Nigeria. So Lipsense actually gave us a lot of advocacy on which a lot of the work we do now in terms of infrastructure that we develop, some of the advocacy and training that we do is all really based on a lot of the work that Lipsense have done. So we've been working, being part of Lipsense, like I said, for a number of years since its inception. And I've had the privilege of being one of the co-chairs of the Lipsense Infrastructure Working Group. And that in itself has provided a lot of knowledge to me, because we've learned lots of things in different areas, particularly on the area of persistent identifiers and strategies that we need to adopt nationally and in Africa. And again, a lot of this information and intelligence is informing the work that we do in Nigeria. And one of the very key benefits that we've had in participating with Lipsense as an NREN is really strengthening our relationships with the research and education community in Nigeria, particularly with the librarians and researchers in our universities and other higher education institutions. And over the years, we've co-hosted a number of webinars and workshops in our user conferences and other webinars, just to put forward advocacy around open access and open science over the years. But like I said, the thrust of my presentation will be on more recent activities that we've been engaged in. One of the initiatives that Lipsense started earlier in the year was to promote national open science roadmaps for the different countries in Africa. And obviously we were part of that. And Eko-Konnect, we came up with a roadmap, and it was really pretty much informed out of the fact that Nigeria is a very big country. We have lots of higher education institutions with up to nearly 200 universities and 550 research institutes and higher institutions in total. And yet, when you look at the various data that can be gathered in terms of scholarly output, research output through open access channels, it is very, very low indeed. And of course, those kind of very low figures certainly informed the need for a roadmap that could address the poor outputs that we're having and inform better impact for our research outputs on society, and see how we can increase scholarly and research outputs within Nigeria. I'm sure there'll be a running theme for most of the presentations that the open science roadmap that we planned was based upon 3 pillars of capacity building, infrastructure, and policy. And then I probably might want to mention a 4th key pillar, which would be advocacy. So as part of our plan for the year was, from the capacity building perspective, was to run a series of workshops that were initially geared at identifying and improving digital literacy and skills of our practitioners. Because even as we want to engage and embrace open science and open access, we do actually realize that some of the digital tools that our practitioners need to use were lacking. And so we knew we needed to have some webinars that kind of dealt with that area. And so I'm going to really be going into the activity highlights at this point. So on that capacity building front, we've run a number of workshops and webinars. We've also been collaborating with Lipsense on various initiatives that provide advocacy and some training for our practitioners, with the intended outcomes are promotion of open science and open access principles and practice that are reinforced within our communities, and bringing awareness to the kinds of tools and infrastructure that is available to enhance such a practice. So like in around May, we'd run a series of digital literacy webinars, and we collaborated with GISC, which is the UK NREN, and we had some facilitators that helped us to look at digital transformation skills that are required, particularly in the post-COVID era, and then how, in particular, there's a bit more of an emphasis on e-learning platforms in these webinars and how we can utilize those e-learning platforms and integrating those platforms with open educational resources to provide a better quality of teaching and learning for our students in our various campuses. So these were some of the kind of webinars and workshops we were running in the first half of the year. And alongside that, we were, at Eko-Konnect, we were working with our technology partners to build infrastructure that addressed some of the challenges that were affecting the adoption of open access and open science practice in our universities. So some of those areas are listed here: federated identity and access management, journal publishing and repositories. Indeed, there'll probably be other infrastructure areas that need to be addressed as well. But these were areas that we felt as an NREN, we were basically capable and competent enough to start to develop infrastructure that would deal with these kind of particular issues, you know. What we've effectively done over the year is develop a infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, to have our community access some of the tools and services that are available, and some of these are enlisted in this slide. We've been collaborating with our partners from Cocoa Foundation to put up like an open source publishing platform called Potahi, and our developers are part of the developer community in the European Nuclear Research Foundation, CERN, who are basically developing open source software around Invenio RDM. And that's really software that we are basing our national repository infrastructure on. Some of the other services include our national federated identity infrastructure, EduID, and some of the other platforms here for e-learning. We use Moodle and EduRoam for Wi-Fi roaming. And then on the policy aspects, one of the big challenges with policy was that we needed to have some policy and make sure that we had all the stakeholders involved with all the stakeholders who have anything to do with open science engaged in this policy. So what we did was run a series of meetings with the different stakeholders. From an institutional perspective, we were able to talk to heads of our universities and institutions and librarians about the need to have institutional policies that guided the use of open science and open access in things that we did, and also look at that also from a national level as well. And this basically kind of culminated as well in us running a national open science symposium, which we did in early September. And in that symposium, we were able to get a lot of our stakeholders within Nigeria to attend. And then we had a lot of speakers, some of the originators from Lipsense and other international and local speakers talk to the needs of open science and open access and the things that we need to do to basically promote the adoption and implementation of open science practice in Nigeria. So this slide basically sort of talks about some of the objectives of that symposium. We heard from UNESCO representatives about the open science recommendations, and we heard from other speakers about how policy was developed in their countries and the techniques and methods that were used to implement open access and open science policies in countries outside Africa. And we also got to learn about how community development for open science was, the techniques of how we can do that within our various institutions. So at the end of this, the two-day symposium, we came up with a report and a call to action as to how to proceed in Nigeria. So out of that report, some of the key points were a clear call to action, open science advocacy and capacity building plan is required for sustained one for Nigeria. And in terms of a open science policy, what we wanted to do was leverage the fact that one of the funding agency of the federal government, TED Fund, were introducing a bill to the National Assembly to establish a National Research and Development Foundation. But we felt that that bill could be strengthened if it also incorporated an open science policy document for Nigeria. And so although the first draft of that bill has actually gone to the National Assembly without the open science policy, we're hoping that when they have to submit the final version of the bill, which I think is in December, we're hoping we can work with TED Fund to introduce that open science policy into that bill. And obviously for political reasons, if we have the government endorsing that, then that would really go a long way to promoting open science in the country. Another key point was to enhance infrastructure collaboration between the different stakeholders within the country to provide infrastructure that will help open access and open science. And what's happened there is that we're looking at Eko-Konnect as an NREN working with TED Fund, other service providers that provide infrastructure, and the REN community to work on a holistic approach that will provide infrastructure for open science utilization. So some of the upcoming activities that we have that have really emanated from some of these activities this year, and the call to the call to action is that at the end of November, we're currently planning with TED-Fund. Again, TED-Fund are our funding agency, research and education funding agency in Nigeria. So we're working with them to have a seminar slated for the end of this month. And in that webinar, we're going to be inviting other infrastructure providers and key members of the research and education community to discuss how we can work together to develop more cloud infrastructure and the underlying connectivity services. I think we're also, TED-Fund are also inviting the telecommunication companies to see how what they can contribute to some interim solutions that would overcome some of the connectivity challenges that many of our institutions face. And I think one of the things that we're going to be putting on the table with the telecoms companies is some interim solution that allows students and researchers and lecturers to have zero-rated data to access cloud infrastructure. So that's really something that we're going to be discussing as well in November. A second activity we want to basically do, hopefully we'll get this done in first week of December. I hope to start the planning for this next week, is to basically put on a webinar for our librarians again, where we basically touch on some advocacy around open access and open science, and look at talking about best practices and methods in the adoption and execution of open science within the library and the wider universities and institution campuses. We'll also be launching ICT for Girls training and projects in December. ICT for Girls is a program that Eko-Konnect has been running for about 5 or 6 years now, with the goal of encouraging young girls in secondary schools and university to embrace STEM subjects and practice.
Looks like he's frozen.
So what we want to do is just kind of give this a more citizen science focus, explain to our girls what citizen science is all about, and get them engaged in projects that are citizen science based. And by that, I mean the use of cheap computing devices like Raspberry Pis and robots to come up with programming skills and solutions that can have some impact, and give that a citizen science slant. And then finally, in January next year, we want to institute a National Science Day in our annual users conference. And we basically want to use that day to be able to review and consolidate on the work that we've been doing in 2021, and then be able to find more champions who can take some of the specific streams in terms of working groups to push agendas forward, and then come up with a clear capacity building and sustainability plan for the promotion and implementation of open science in Nigeria. And I think that just kind of summarizes what we've been doing and our intentions for the coming months and next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Owen. And I hope open science will be added to the second version of the bill. And there is also a very nice thank you message in the chat. Thanks a lot. I think Getnet fixed his audio. So let's maybe try once again.
Hello, Irina.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? No?
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry.
will you share your screen? Oh,
Yeah.
excellent.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting us to this webinar. It was interesting and nice. Thank you for the presenters. I will discuss about our open access. I will focus on data management. Actually, in our university, especially in Addis University, open access movement was as early as possible in 2007. Since then, we started the open access initiative. We have tried to create awareness among the staff, the university community, and later implemented systems such as history and a library, and also Ethiopian journals online. These were early initiatives in our university. Today, I will focus on the self-data management case study. I will go through these points, drivers, policy, implementation, challenges, and next steps. So, as we all know, there is a fourth paradigm of science, which is research, data-intensive science. So, research certificates, corporate focus. Nowadays, we're moving to the research publication. We have to manage the data also.
Sorry, Getnet looks like there are some Saudi issues on your end. Is it possible for you to maybe speak up a bit?
Okay.
So maybe if you could talk a bit louder. Yeah, I think now it's better.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, as it's been said, data is very important, and we have to make use of this data in our research and endeavors. So, as a driver in Addis Ababa University, especially, yeah, there was value our research data, no data use. That's where their research endeavors. Data is collected from different academic research staffs in different research endeavors, and faculty's college generate data from community-based data for exploration purpose, and data also collected as masters and PhD studies. All these were available but not properly managed, and we didn't get the value from those data. And there were also constant requests from staffs, especially those who are aware of their research data management activities, especially from life science areas. They were usually asking the library about service related to research data management, how we can manage our data. So this was a driver, and there is also publishers' requirement, and connection to this staff were requesting us formally, informally, where should I put my research data? Do we have institutional repository? And such questions were coming from the staff, because they try to publish their research article, and these days publishers are requesting where is your research data. So staff were requesting us where should I put my research data. And there was also this policy, national and institutional policy regarding open access, especially there was this case, Minister of Science and Higher Education drafted and approved the national open access policy. Then, following this policy, as a university, Addis Ababa University also, we implemented a policy, data sharing policy. So these were the main drivers for us to research data management activities. And this the draft that approved Moshe policy, access policy, and as you can see, in the scope, publications, cases, dissertation, and research data also included. So usually institutions, especially public universities should make their research data and other research outputs as open as possible and as necessary. So this was a policy from Ministry of Science and Higher Education. Following this policy, Addis Ababa University also implemented its own data sharing policy. Yeah, it goes through a lot of process, and it should be approved by the University Senate. So we have worked a lot with different units in the university, especially in this case, this MOSHE policy, the National Open Access policy, helped us a lot to make our case. And yeah, we needed a champion also, and in our university, the research, the office or the academic vice president for research and technology transfer helped us a lot as a champion. So we make our case, and after some tough process, we get to manage the approval by the University Senate. So now we have the institutional data sharing policy. So that is important. And this data sharing policy, yeah, it's in line with the National Open Access policy, and it covers all data generated by the university community using public money to be as open as possible and with the necessary precautions regarding sensitivity and security issues. So yeah, data also generated using collaborative projects based on prior agreement to be made open, and yeah, it includes every aspect of the research data. It's mentioned here, statistics, textual text, image, sound, auditives, a lot of research data types. So this was the policy from the university, the university, and to enforce the policy. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there was a very huge gap regarding awareness level. So we moved to create awareness, especially in showing importance of research data management, its benefits. So different trainings were run, yeah, at our university level. Then different trainings, and nationally also as a country, especially there is this shared members from different academic and research universities. So there were also support from EIFL with some grant. So we moved to around 4 universities taking the training on research data management and creating awareness. So these were early attempts, and in the university there is also yearly the university award grants for thematic research. So with the research office, what we did was we gave training for those who won the research grant, and yeah, we gave them training on the importance and benefit of research data management, and also how they can prepare data management plan. So these were early initiatives from our side, and yeah, following this from this year, every researcher who won this thematic grant from the university will should submit his data management plan. So this is a requirement now from the university. So every researcher who wants the grant should prepare data management plan and submit to further go with research. And yeah, in parallel, after the policy, we went to implement data repository for the university. So we successfully implemented research data management repository, and as you can see, we have implemented this repository. We used the Dataverse software. It's from Harvard, so we implemented research data management repository at the university. So these were what we did, the activities after the policy, and while this, there were challenges, and as I mentioned earlier, from the very first of the policy drafting and implementing the policy, this awareness gap was very problematic. Resistance from staff, especially due to lack of awareness. Yeah, the staff, they fear, yeah, they lose their data, somebody would steal them, or someone will use to publish for himself. And these questions or these fears were coming from the staff, so the awareness was a challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, we did several trainings to create the awareness. And yeah, this was including staffs, academics, researchers, and postgraduate students, and also librarians. So we gave training for those staffs. And there was also a role conflict. Yeah, as you are aware, usually this research data management activity, yeah, the research office claims its activity, and yeah, as a librarian, yeah, following the international trend and following previous trends of managing the research activities, we claim the library should take the activity. So yeah, this was also a challenge to clear. And yeah, while implementing the policy and research data repository, and also thinking about what will happen next, yeah, there was this challenge from having skilled staff, especially who require data librarians. Once we start the service, it will be big task to take for the library. So this was also a challenge, but as I mentioned earlier, we tried to equip the librarians with the necessary skills regarding data librarianship. And there is also this challenge infrastructure. Yeah, implemented the repository, it needs storage. There is also the security issue and yeah, availability. So these are some of the challenges. We are trying our best to tackle them. Different needs. So as a next step, yeah, recently soon we will have extensive training around the university, especially with colleges, departments, and yeah, we are planning to reach every staff, academicians, and researchers. So we will cover the RDM case and how to use the repository. The repository already implemented. So we are going to get to the deposit of data into the repository. So we'll cover this extensive training soon. We are planning, and also we are preparing for the support. So yeah, it's always the library should be ready for a lot of support patients from the university community. So we are trying to equip our librarians with data librarianship skills. And yeah, these are the next steps. We are already doing all that is in parallel. So this is how our data management initiative. And yeah, finally, I would like to thank EIFL and especially Irina and every person who are working with us. Yeah, it's really a lot of support from them, and we are doing our best to work with them. So these are very helpful support for us to move to this open science paradigm, and we look forward to their continued support. So I would like to say thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Getnet, and apologies for the sound issues, and congratulations. What you've done is amazing. So as you see, colleagues, we are already looking at institutional perspectives, and I would like to invite Reggie, Raju, and Jill Claassen from UCT, and they actually don't need an introduction because they've been advocates for open access globally for many years. So thanks a lot, colleagues, for finding time to talk about your experiences, and over to you.
So just give me a second.
You in the camera.
Okay. So we're sharing one office here, so we're not sure who is in the camera and who isn't. But so I'm going to ask Owen's question, can you see me? So,
yes, we can see you and a bit of Jill.
Hi, colleagues. Again, thank you so much for having us, Serena, and the colleagues. What we're going to share is basically what UCT has done in terms of the open access process. And what we will try to do is we will try to pull a golden thread through where we started and where we are at this point in time. And the focus here is more on the publishing program as opposed to the repository program. We're all aware of the fact that, it's no secret that UCT Libraries was a latecomer to the adoption of open access. But what it has done is it has allowed UCT to learn from other institutions and to fast track the development of its practices. The original open access policy was accepted by the University Council in 2014. And no sooner was it accepted, we realized that there were major gaps in the policy. So we started to agitate for changes to the policy. So not only did we advocate for changes in the policy, because we also looked at practices. So the revisions basically included policy revisions and practice revisions. There were three distinct inclusions in the revised policy. The first was the explicit commitment. And here there was deliberate attempt to make commitment explicit for the inclusion of social justice principles. The second, which emanated from the first, was a commitment to sharing research and open access practices with the rest of the continent. And the third was the commitment to adopt and grow the library as a publisher service. This policy revision had empowered the library to navigate into uncharted waters, to solicit the support from a number of other entities at the university. So the basic principle was to make open access not just a library project, but a university-wide drive. The focus in this discussion here is the third inclusion, which is built on the other two inclusions. And here I've taken an extract from the open access policy, and you could see there is specific reference to the publication of open monographs and open textbooks. There's also distinct mention of diamond open access, and again, a commitment from the university to support diamond open access publishing of journals and books, which will complement other publishing processes. And subsequent to this policy revision was discussions about bringing the University of Cape Town Press, this is the formal commercial arm of the press, into the library. But these revisions allowed us to negotiate with the university that when the press does come into the library, it will come in as an open access publisher. Just before I get into this, just to say that in order for us as UCT Libraries to grow the open access movement in South Africa, we had taken the deliberately taken the decision to focus on the publication of monographs and textbooks, because we are aware that other libraries in the country had already started publishing open journals using OJS. So we adopted the road less traveled process to ensure a more complete open access practice. So as I've indicated, we went with, where we focused on publishing books, and we began our publishing program in 2016. It has since then, we have since then published 19 books, including open textbooks. In 2016, these were the very founding stages of this. We used 2016 as part of a consolidation process and proof of concept. And the publications that we produced in 2016, the content to that was mainly driven by the library. And as you could see from the graphic, here, from 2018 onwards, the publishing program had become more institutionalized. So the shift was now to get other entities at the university to participate in this publishing program. And as you could see in 2020, that had increased to 4. And in 2021, we are now sitting at also 4, but we have 2 other books that are currently in press. I'm going to use 2 books to demonstrate how we have met the goals of a revised policy. The first book is a partnership with CHED, and Jill will share a little more a little later. Jill will be talking about the development of partnerships for wider participation by UCT entities. The first book, which is displayed on the graphic, is The Marketing to South African Consumers. This book was published this year, and as you could see, there has been a steady incline in terms of the number of downloads. But what we found most interesting when we looked at when we did some level of analysis, there were almost 35,000 downloads. But as I said, the interesting thing was that the book has been downloaded in 134 countries. So for us, that was great. Being downloaded in 134 countries clearly indicates that the reach, or that indicates the reach that this open textbook had, and hopefully the reach it could have in terms of influencing curriculum in other countries. The second book is the Constitutional Law textbook, and this book was published formally published in early 2020. But what I've highlighted here is the number of times it has been downloaded in September. But let me go back with this kind of analysis. I hope you can read what's on the table here. So if we look at this book within the revision of the policy, we're looking at it in terms of social justice. We're looking at it in terms of as wide a reach as possible. So I'm going to look at the elements that we looked at in terms of a social justice process. The first was, it is open access compliant for me and for the colleagues at UCT. Is it available free to the reader, and is it available free to the publisher? So this Diamond Open Access, this is a Diamond Open Access book that has achieved both the goals. The second is in terms of equity. When we talk about equity, we talked about how has it influenced South Africa higher education. And when you look at it, a large cohort of students in South Africa are second or later English speakers. And these students have challenges navigating dense legal content. This book is written by students for students, but it is written under the supervision of an experienced tutor. So what we have achieved in this book is that the language is much more understandable, but without compromising on academic rigor. When we talked about inclusion, I need to continue with the whole thing about addressing the language challenge. This book is also available in audio format, which allows students to listen to the book before reading it. From our analysis and understanding, a lot of students preferred listening rather than reading. So this option of being able to listen to the book before reading it made the book a little bit more inclusive, and it also caters for other learning styles. And the fact that it is in audio format, or one of the formats is audio, the visually impaired can also listen to the book without having to seek appropriate software to support their learning. I know in South Africa that smartphones are a lot more available than computers. The fact that the content can be viewed in HTML or EPUB makes it radically more accessible, and this improves accessibility. Then we looked at the issue of leveling the playing field. One of the major challenges in this process was that the students were failing and nobody could tell them why they were failing, and that included the academics. And when we approached the academics about this, they said that there are no model answers. So our question is, if there are no model answers to the examinations, then how do we work with the students? So what we then did is we embedded mini workbooks to help students prepare for the constitutional law examination. We looked at then expanded readership. When this book was conceptualized, the assumption was that the book will be used across the country to assist with teaching and learning across South Africa. I just want to switch over to the next slide. And here is the constitutional law textbook. And you could see in the month of September, which is basically last month, there was more than 15,000 downloads. And that for me says that students are using the book. In the month of July, there was 10,900, almost 11,000 downloads. But I think what amazed us was that this is a constitutional law for students textbook, but it was being downloaded by readers in a number of other areas. And that included the global north. There are 22 countries in the global north where this book was downloaded. There were other countries in Africa that used the textbook. And if you look at other global south countries, there are 22 countries in the global south that downloaded this particular textbook. Again, for us, it was the kind of reach that we didn't expect, but were quite overjoyed with. We then look at the concept of development. The fact that we use students to create the content, for us also ticked the block where we talked about developing the next generation of academics. And the last was empowerment. The fact that the book is easily understandable and readable serves to empower the citizens. The rank and file, the citizens of the country, can familiarize themselves with the rights, consolidating South Africa's democracy. So in essence, we've achieved all our goals in terms of the revisions that we envisage would support a new paradigm with the open access movement in South Africa. I'm now going to ask Jill to continue talking about the partnerships in this, and I will move out of the camera.
Isn't it great to share podium? I think it's awesome. Afternoon, everybody. So as a library, we could have very easily have waited and be reactionary, so to speak, and wait for the creators of knowledge at the institution to come to us. But rather what we focused on and what has really been a success has been partnerships. The library has developed a partnership with the Digital Open Textbooks for Development project within the Center for Higher Education Development. So this project is called Dot4D. I'm going to refer to it as Dot4D. Aims to promote the inclusion in higher education by exploring the potential of open textbooks to address equitable access to relevant learning. So one of Dot4D's objectives is to support the publishing of open textbooks. Another of the objectives would be to work with creators of knowledge around pedagogical innovation. And if one looks at what Dot4D does, working with the creators of knowledge at the University of Cape Town and the library program or library publishing, both partnerships complement one another. And it really is strengthening open textbooks at the university on the continent because it's open access, just as Reggie has shown us through the statistics and his comments on the two very local open textbooks. So Dot4D and UCT libraries focus on the inclusion of marginalized voices. That's critical for us as Africans. There has to be a focus on disability access, and very importantly would be relevance of local content. Multilingualism in a country like South Africa, in a continent like Africa, is critical as well. So if one looks at the similarities between Dot4D, the partnership, one can see that the focus is really on social justice imperatives. And that is what has strengthened this partnership, which forms part of the university's Vision 2030, to have local, decolonialized, transformed learning material within the lecture halls. And so this partnership has permeated both within the university and nationally even. And so there is an open textbook award initiative that has been running for the last 2 years. And it is recognition of the university of what is taking place within the university. And it is transforming the teaching and learning material production. So that's taking place within UCT. Nationally, what has started through the partnership has been an open textbook conversation, a roundtable discussion with different stakeholders all coming together and talking about open textbooks in South Africa. And the library is a critical partner in shaping this conversation to develop communities of practice in the country's higher education sector in the support of open textbook production. Thanks.
Thanks, Arena. But just as again, just to round up, as you could see, the changes in policy, how we try to pull that golden thread and use that policy to leverage support from, for example, our ICT department, and also pull in the academic department in supporting open publishing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. Amazing results. Thanks a lot for sharing that. We have a question to you from Miriam Ndungu from Kenyatta University. Which platform do you use to host and publish books?
OJS. We use OJS for both journals, for journals, and OMP for the books.
OMP, yeah.
Yeah, so the PKP products that we are all aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Arena, we did that deliberately because from the little that we know, a lot of other institutions on the continent use similar software. So, and have not gone ahead because of other challenges. So hopefully we can come together via the Continental platform, share similar experiences, and not each institution trying to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you so much. Fully agree. So I'm trying to make Miriam a presenter in case she wants to share some updates from Kenya. Because we were supposed to have another colleague, but unfortunately he couldn't join. So Miriam, if you would like to unmute your mic and talk about your open access work, please do. So if you're speaking, we can't hear you. It's definitely not our day today with the sound issues. We also had a colleague from Consortium of Uganda University Libraries and Uganda Christian University who unfortunately had to leave because he had another commitment. In July, they also hosted a National Open Science Symposium with National Science and Technology Council, and there were good discussions on setting up a search portal for research outputs from Uganda, because many universities have their repositories. There are also open access journal publishing platforms, and we had discussions about national research data infrastructure. So they are in the process of setting that up, and I hope we'll have some good news from Uganda soon.
Sorry, Irina, I don't know why I was logged out.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. I was requested by Dr. Njoroge Gitau to just give a highlight of open access in Kenyatta University. So I'll not be talking about Kenya. I'll be focusing on Kenyatta University. I'm trying to make it a slide. It's taking a bit of time. So as okay. Let me start by just giving a bit. So I'll start by giving the context of Kenyatta University in brief. We are a public university in Kenya. We acquired university status in 1985, and we have 9 campuses and 19 schools. We provide higher education at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. The institution has invested very heavily in infrastructure and facilities to offer students and staff the best experience in learning. So I will go straight away to open access policy description. And just to give you an overview of our policy, it was published in 2014. And the policy is registered with the Registry of Open Access, Repository Mandates and Policies. And it covers areas such as the Open Access Policy Statement. We have an aspect covering repository content and submission policy, metadata policy, selection, retention, replacement, and withdrawal. And we also have covered the intellectual property, quality control, preservation policy, and compliance and monitoring. So let me dwell just more briefly on what changes that we have seen with the adoption of the policy. One of the things that has come up is that we have evident awareness creation of the open access concept across the university. And of course, after the policy was published, then our repository was implemented using this space. And as a library, what we had to do is we had to create a section called digitization section that was mandated to implement and manage the repository. The other change that we noticed is that the university quickly picked the IR as one of the metrics of measuring our researchers' productivity and performance. And this, of course, really made us move with more speed in terms of uploading content in our repository. Then we also had to embark on retrospective digitization of theses that were in print format before the policy came into being. And this digitization became part of the library's workflows. And with that also, the other thing that came about is the requirement that our postgraduate students submit an e-copy in addition to the print copy of their thesis. And quickly what became apparent is that as the thesis went online, it became easier to spot cases of plagiarism. And with this, this accelerated the development of the KU anti-plagiarism policy. So the policy, the KU anti-plagiarism policy and guidelines were published in 2017. And concurrently, the university also invested in the Turnitin text matching software. Also, as a result of the open access policy and the implementation of our IR, we have increased availability of resources for research. And more recently, the repository work of productivity has become part of the university's performance contract targets. And of course, this means more support to the library because we have to ensure we meet the target at the end of every quarter. So what was the motivation for change and the adoption of the open access policy? One, the university was experiencing a lot of pressure to improve webometric ranking because at that time the IR contributed directly to a parameter in the webometric ranking called size. And although the parameter has recently been discontinued, our IR continues to affect ranking of the university indirectly through the parameter of transparency or openness. And this measures citations from our top 210 authors. Now, the open access movement spearheaded by the library also increased the awareness of the emergence of and the need for IRs. And of course, the other motivation for change is that it was becoming very clear that as KU, we needed to explore ways of ensuring that our research output is archived online. So what are some of the processes and dynamics for developing, implementing, and managing the change? The university top management was very instrumental in the success of developing and implementing the open access policy and of course the resultant IR. Now, one of the other things that we needed to deal with initially was researchers expressed fear that they were concerned that their work would be plagiarized if uploaded in the IR. So this we had to counter by very intensive training and awareness creation. Then there was also a lot of laxity in submitting research work to the repository probably because of the concern that I have mentioned. And one of the things that as library we quickly had to do is find out a model that would work and ensure that we continued uploading. So we tried to make the work easy for those who are willing to submit. So the model we updated is we archive on behalf of our authors, so they don't really have to do self-archiving. Then we had to look at the legal implications of the retrospective application of the policy to allow uploading of thesis done before the publication of the policy. So how did we mitigate this? The university published a notice in the dailies, and in the notice, we let our alumni know that this policy was going to be implemented and the implications of that if they had any objections, then they were supposed to raise the objections within the stipulated notice period. Then the other thing that became apparent is that some of the publishers declined to publish research papers that were extracted from the e-thesis on the basis that they constituted previously published works. So to counter this, what the university did is that we gave a leeway or a window where if as an author, your work was uploaded online, your thesis, then you could, if you wanted to publish a paper, then you could apply for what we call an embargo period, where now the thesis would not be made visible online for the period within which you needed to prepare your work and publish it with a journal. Then I must say that the university is committed to academic integrity, and then, therefore the management was very concerned about potential plagiarism cases emerging on our IR platform. So to counter this, like I said, we quickly developed the anti-plagiarism software and also complemented that with the Turnitin text matching software. So I will summarize by just giving a timeline of the policy development and implementation. So the first document was uploaded in our repository on 9th of May, 2011. Our open access institutional repository policy was adopted on 9th January, 2014. And currently the total number of documents that are available in open access in our repository is 16,608. Then also as a timeline, the first version of anti-plagiarism policy that really is crucial in ensuring that our IR does not bring about plagiarism cases was published in 2017, and recently it has been revised, and the revision was done in 2020. So with that, that brings me to an end of just the highlights of open access policy. And I'm happy to learn about what the rest of us are doing in terms of open research. And I'm sure I will be reaching out to some of the speakers so that we can also move together with you. Thank you, Irina.
Thank you so much, Miriam, and congratulations on your successes. And thanks a lot for your leadership at KU and also in the country. So apologies, colleagues, we went over time, but we will have one more country on the agenda, Tanzania, and Stephen Gaya is attending. And if you want to share about your developments, Stephen, perhaps raise a hand or write in the chat. And I can briefly say that Stephen is from TERNET, which is Research and Education Network in Tanzania. And they just hosted a conference and a panel, and I'm promoting you as a panelist, Stephen. So I think if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak. Good to see you. We still can't hear you. I can see you speaking, but there's no audio.
You seem muted. Stephen, you are muted.
Or maybe you have to select a device next to a mic. Like I say, it's definitely not the best day for us. Oh, I don't know, maybe disconnect your headset and connect again. That sometimes helps as well. No, we still can't hear you. And do you have your headset as your preferred speaker? Like if you click on mute, select a microphone, select a speaker. Is it a headset or something else? Sorry, still can't hear you.
Open Science roadmap. So our roadmap, basically, it was March this year, was including the creation of awareness about open science. There was policy development, there was repository enhancement, infrastructure, and enhance of collaboration. So since then, we have not done much on many of these activities, but so far on the awareness creation, we had our first international conference on digital transformation, which was done on September this year, and we had a discussion on open science, which was chaired by Omo, and we bring up the key persons, especially in Tanzania. We had the chair of Tanzania Commission of Libraries, which is called Kotul, and we had the Commission of Science and Technology, person from Commission of Science and Technology, Ethernet, and so we discussed in a way of creating awareness of open science, what it is, and how can we go about. So we presented the roadmap, although by then we did a little bit, but we presented the roadmap and what we are thinking, or what we can do as a nation. So on the side of repository enhancement, we had collaboration with Tanzania Commission of Science and Technology to help high learning institution and research institution to have the digital repositories, because in Tanzania that is still a challenge. Most of the institutions, they don't have this digital repository. So far we found 12 digital repositories in Tanzanian institutions. So then we deployed about 23 digital repositories, new digital repositories, and also we connect them to the central repository that were deployed at the Commission of Science and Technology to allow open access. So this will allow people to search for any research output from the institutional repository that is within a country. So the project went well, but we still had challenges on the continuity, because there is issue of capacity on the management of these repositories. There is issue of digitization. Most of the research outputs were still in physical papers, except for those which were already published on the, let's say, journals, outside journals. So we did training for about 40 people from these institutions. Part of these trainees were IT and the training them on how to use this repository to publish the research outputs. So that's what we have done on the side of research and investment. On the policy development, so far we have not done anything, but we are planning to have a meeting with the stakeholders. This includes COTOL, which is Tanzania Commission for Librarians, Tanzania Commission for Librarians, COSTECH, which is Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology, these all stakeholders. So we are planning to have a meeting and have the basically first to address the issue of open science and the status and what we think and way forward and what we can do on the post development that will help. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And yeah, you are very modest. You've done a lot. Congratulations and thanks a lot for all your support to repositories.
Yeah. Okay. So that's so far is what has been done in Tanzania, and basically we are looking to more collaborations and so far on the policy making with our internal stakeholders, but with external stakeholders on how to make sure this research outputs and other are open and accessible to all. So we have big issue in the capacity building. That's the major issue that now we are going to focus capacity building and the policy post development. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thank you everyone for sharing your updates. So it was a snapshot of open access developments in Arab states, in Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, Uganda. Thanks a lot for joining us and spending these 2 hours. Apologies that we went over time, but these were very interesting conversations, and thank you everyone for all the work that you are doing, advancing open access and open science, and let's continue in Lipsense and see you at the working group meetings or at other meetings. Thank you so much, and have a good afternoon, evening. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.